Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. If you saw the last video, we got the engine and trans installed as well as the wiring harness all hooked up, tidied up, and everything nice and clean. So what we need to do in this one is just start working on buttoning up all the little things. We need to bolt up the intake manifold and get all the sensors and plugs and everything associated with it connected. We need to bolt on the turbo and figure out what we're going to do for a turbo drain. It's a little tight in there, so we'll have to see what we can come up with. And we're also going to get the radiator, fans, hoses, and all the little stuff we can just kind of buttoned up. So first we'll install our M50 intake manifold. If you didn't check out my last video where we modified this for our turbo setup and cleaned it and installed some new hoses, go check that out. Kind of shows you what I'm going to be doing to make the vacuum system work. And this is complete. Everything's bolted onto it except for the injectors and fuel rail. That's the only thing I'm waiting for. Hopefully they'll be here soon, but we can just install those after this has already been bolted up. Now I have the intake air temp sensor, which the OEM location is right here under the manifold. I'm going to be running a different one for my standalone that's going to go into the intercooler piping, so I'm going to leave this disconnected for the time being. And our TPS sensor. We have our vacuum line here for our fuel pressure regulator. I'm just going to pull it up through here so we know it's there. So last night I was spending some time to myself out in the garage coming up with a game plan for the turbo drain, and it just snowballed into me pretty much doing the entire thing. And this was what I came up with. It avoids the heat, it runs to the left side of the frame rail, goes down and around and into the oil pan. Now it's kind of a long run, but it's the only way I could avoid a lot of the heat because my only other option was to go to the right hand side of the wastegate between the head, and that's just pushing it way too much. And also for this turbo drain, I went ahead and RTV'd in a rubber gasket so it would not rub through the line. Next we're going to install our oil feed line for the turbo. If you saw my last video where we installed all the accessories on the motor, you saw off the oil filter housing side of this Vanos feed here, I have a special banjo fitting that adapts to an AN line, so this will plug right into that and the other end will go right into the turbo feed. So for the time being, we're going to just run off the wastegate spring pressure. So I have this silicone 1/4 inch hose that we're going to plug into the turbo housing and the other end into the wastegate. Next we're going to install our radiator. This is a Z3M aluminum radiator. It's very popular among a lot of BMW chassis. Also I have a 16-inch SPAL slim fan on here that works great. So a while back I cut out my core support so I could fit this bigger radiator in here because it's very tight in this chassis between the radiator and the engine. Now it made this kind of flimsy and I've been meaning to do a tube front, but I'm going to hold off for the time being and actually use this radiator to bolt to the core support, and it makes it all pretty stout. So the last thing we need to do is find a place to mount this coolant reservoir. I've been browsing around the bay a little bit. I used to have it mounted right here up against the core support, but obviously that's not going to work anymore, nor do I want it anywhere near the turbo just due to heat. So I think I'll have some extra room over here. I was kind of messing around with placement. I could put it here, but it might be in the way of the intercooler piping. So I think what I'm going to do is put it off at an angle right here in the corner, out of the way, and we'll see if we can find a good way to mount it. So I found these strips of aluminum around the garage from a previous project. I bent it in the vise, and I think I'll be able to make this work just fine for mounting this expansion tank. And all the slots are adjustable, so I have some wiggle room up and down and in and out. So what I'll do is just get this on here loose. Let's see if there's a way we can go about mounting this up. I think something just like that. It feels like I have a flat area right underneath core support, which I do. And we'll be able to put it in just like so. And once the hood is on, I'll be able to slide this up with the slots in these brackets and get this as high as I possibly can up under the hood. So I'll get this kind of where I want it. So I drilled a hole up in the bottom. I'm going to install this riv nut. I have the riv nut on the tool. Now I don't know if I'll be able to get in here. And it's at a bit of a weird angle because of the way I put it in. So I'm going to thread this bolt in here and bend it straight. We'll then fit the bracket up. And I'll leave it loose so we have adjustability in and out and left and right, wherever we want it. So something happened to the audio here. I lost the sound for these clips, but I'm just mocking up the expansion tank so I can mount the other holes and riv nut for that bracket. And then we will want to install our coolant hose from the back of the timing cover to the bottom of the expansion tank. Now this one I used to have is going to be way longer than what I need, so we'll see where this has to go. From there, we'll have it hug. Okay, so now that we have the hose connected to the back of the timing cover, this end will go into our expansion tank. Then we'll install the hose that runs from the radiator to the expansion tank. Now this routing's gonna be kind of goofy right now just because this fitting comes out the right hand side. I might get a different one or maybe find a different style hose. But for now, I'm just gonna do something like this, I think. Maybe I will suck these in, something like that, if I can avoid not kinking it. I don't know, that looks pretty stupid too. So I figured out a better solution for this line. This right now just has a straight piece coming out. I'm gonna put a 90-degree fitting on here, which I may already have. So the last couple things we need to do is replace this fitting with a 90-degree barbed fitting that will come out and swoop into the radiator, as well as putting this overflow hose on. I'll route that out underneath the car, and that'll be it. So the cooling is all done. The only thing left is to install a barbed 90-degree fitting to come off the expansion tank into the radiator. That completes the whole cooling system. We're getting very close to getting this started. All we have left to do is just mount the intercooler and fab up the piping. We need to upgrade our fueling system, as well as getting the standalone set up and installed and getting a base map loaded, and then hopefully this thing will fire. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for all that because it's coming very soon. See ya.